Good morning, doctors and attorneys. Hey, I wanted to go over leadership this week. And I'm getting ready to hop on a plane today to go teach over in Virginia. And in my morning routines and rituals, I try to listen to positive and uplifting things, as I encourage you guys to do, to have your power hour in the morning. If you haven't watched that video, do it. And if you don't think you have enough time to do the things that we're coaching, you don't think you have enough time in the week to go do marketing or to go do the trainings and the certification with yourself or your team, then watch the one on 168 hours. So we want to make sure we're managing our time well. But today on leadership, I just wanted to talk about, I had a great review. I went to Holmes Elementary School when I was a kid. I'm like, who is Oliver Wendell Holmes? I had no idea. I keep hearing these quotes now in my adult years of things that he has taught. I know in business finishing school, they'll quote him saying they wouldn't give anything for simplicity here, but on the simplicity on the far side of complexity, they would give everything they have for it. That's a quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes. And it's a little confusing at first till you realize when we're building our procedures and our systems at work, it's a grind to figure that out. But once you figure it out and you have it, now there's simplicity on the far side of that complexity of building the machine. It's like, oh, it's so complex building this airplane. Oh, the work, the years, the turmoil. But now it's so easy to fly from the US to Paris because of the work that we did. We made things. The simplicity on the far side of complexity is powerful. And in our office, when we have our procedures and we review our procedures and we keep sharpening the skills, sharpening the saw on that, that's how we make things better. And I'm going to share a video link with you at the end of this that I think is great on leadership and great on communication. 5 key things from, I forgot the guy's name, but you'll see the video. And he actually does a really good one I am going to share in here too for 2 minutes on Oliver Wendell Holmes. And what I love about this is the power to do the right thing, even when it's not easy, to put in the hard work. As Garrett Gunderson teaches us, life is either hard, easy, or easy, hard. Let's do the hard and get it out of the way so that things go smooth down the road. But the story with Oliver Wendell Holmes is fascinating because at the turn of the 18th century, this Black Death was going across Europe and spread into America. Women were dying like crazy, like 70% at the hospital. You go to the midwife, your survival rate was great. You go to the hospital, your survival rate was horrible.
In the 18th century, there was something that spread across Europe and eventually made its way to America called puerperal fever, also known as the Black Death of childbed. Basically, what was happening is women were giving birth and they would die within 48 hours after giving birth. This Black Death of childbirth was the ravage of Europe, and it got worse and worse and worse over the course of over a century. In some hospitals, it was as high as 70% of women who gave birth who would die as a result of giving birth. But this was the Renaissance. This was the time of empirical data and science, and we had thrown away things like tradition and mysticism. These were men of science, these were doctors. And these doctors and men of science wanted to study and try and find the reason for this Black Death of childbed, and so they got to work studying, and they would study the corpses of the women who had died. And in the morning they would conduct autopsies, and then in the afternoon they would go and deliver babies and finish their rounds. And it wasn't until somewhere in the mid-1800s that Dr. Oliver Wendell Holmes realized that all of these doctors who were conducting autopsies in the morning weren't washing their hands before they delivered babies in the afternoon. And he pointed it out and said, guys, you're the problem. And they ignored him and called him crazy for 30 years. Until finally somebody realized that if they simply washed their hands, it would go away. And that's exactly what happened. When they started sterilizing their instruments and washing their hands, the Black Death of childbed disappeared. The lesson here is sometimes you're the problem. And my point is take accountability for your actions. You can take all the credit in the world for the things that you do right, as long as you also take responsibility for the things you do wrong. It must be a balanced equation. You don't get it one way and not the other. You get to take credit when you also take accountability.
And through the COVID era, when in the beginning we were all caught off guard, and then some of us said, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't work. This isn't how the immune system works. Something is amok. And for those of us that stood up for that and stood up fighting the ridiculousness of masks and fighting for the strength of immunity through natural things like vitamin D, vitamins C, quinine, good rest, avoiding stress, washing your hands, these kind of things to help boost your immune system naturally. There's power in that. And yet we see that the pressure that was on us to cave to the loss of freedoms and those kind of things. And I'm not tooting my horn here. I'm just using the example that Petridge and Tempo teaches with your stand is your brand. You want to stand for what you believe in, and you want to be good at defending what you believe in, which is why we want to do the training in personal injury, because it is a med-legal thing. We need to be able to stand and fight for these patients. And just going back to COVID, I had to stand and fight. My first wife was deaf, and she got kicked out of the store. They made her put her groceries down, and three men with masks came up. She couldn't understand them because she couldn't read their lips because they had masks on. And they physically escorted her out of the store because she wasn't wearing a mask, because her cancer doctor said, "Hey, look, don't wear a mask. You need to be breathing fresh air, not rebreathing stuff. That's not going to help you fight cancer." So she's following doctor's orders from a smart doctor, and these people are following doctor's orders from Dr. Fauci, who was a nut job as far as I'm concerned, and completely took away this woman's freedom to buy groceries and make a meal for her family in her dying days. And it flipped a switch for me where I was like, well, I'm not going to put up with this. I picketed at the stores. We had air cleaning purifier at the office, and we had, we did all the right things. We coached our patients in nutrition, and we were firing up their nervous system with chiropractic to help boost your immune system. Because research shows that after an adjustment, you have 20 minutes after an adjustment, you have 40% more white blood cells. It literally stimulates your immune system just getting adjusted. And so we did these things, and I had new patients come in just all masked up and calling the health department and complaining about me, and the health department would call up and complain. And if I cowered and not stood up for what I believed, I would have been shut down. But I said, no, we are doing X, Y, and Z for our patients because the nervous system and the immune system work this way, this way, and this way. And we also have an air purification system that is designed to help kill bacteria, viruses, and we're going above and beyond what is being asked of healthcare providers, but we're doing it our way because this is what we know works. And they're like, okay, we'll make a note. That's fine. Thanks for letting us know. No problem. Stand as your brand. So going back to the 18th century, the reason all these people were dying is doctors were spreading the disease because they thought they were so smart and wanted to figure it out. So they're doing autopsies in the morning and then not washing their hands, and they're going to deliver babies in the afternoon and literally killing these mothers with their techniques, which is also what we saw through the COVID era, where remdesivir shuts down organs, and yet that was the standard protocol at the hospitals treating COVID. So sometimes we need to pause and check where we're at and make sure our leadership is on point. I encourage you to watch this whole video with Simon Senik because it's got some great tips, 5 great tips on what to do for leadership and understanding. And then check the last one and see, are you doing these things in your office? Are you creating an environment where you're leading properly rather than cracking the whip and having expectations where they're going to work and they're not in it to win it. They're not in it because they just want to serve and grow you and your practice and your firm. Make sure that you're leading the right way. And I encourage all of us every day, watch that module. We should be waking up early and having our power hour and putting good stuff in our head that helps us fine tune, be a better version of ourselves at home for our spouse and our kids, and at the office for our employees, our patients, and our clients, that we are literally leading by a powerful example.